Hey everyone, this is the Twins with the Grand Old Time Cast, and I am sitting here today with our first Black Hat Sergeant, Sergeant Dan Chamberlain. And first things first, we'll just jump right into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the general zeitgeist. Who are you? Where you from? And your general upbringing.
So I'm Daniel Chamberlain. I am from Lone Grove, Oklahoma, down the south central part near Ardmore area. I married. Have a beautiful wife, Samantha. She's the smart one in the family. She's a doctor of physical therapy, so she's a physical therapist and kind of the breadwinner of the family. Got a couple kids, Liam and Beckett. They are 3 and 6. I guess I said their names backwards. Yeah, that's kind of the general thing. A football coach and podcaster here in Northeast Oklahoma. I've been coaching. I think this past season was my 5th season, and taught all but 1 year. This past year, I just got out of the classroom, decided just to coach, and yeah. But it's been a fun career. Coaching is a lot like the military, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into it later when coming out of OCS
Mm-hmm.
and jumping into coaching. I was like, man, these worlds are exactly the same.
Yep.
So that's
Just
pretty neat.
different age levels about it. But yeah.
Absolutely. Graduate of University of Oklahoma, so I can be a fan. All those people out there say you can't be a fan if you don't have the diploma.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them my money so I could. Well, the government did. Thank God for the National Guard. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Okay, so you did you end up joining the guard? Were you a young guard joiner, or did you go out of high school?
So it's a pretty funny story because my brother, I'm number 3 of 4 boys. My mom had a very rowdy household.
Mm-hmm.
So number 2, the one just above me, he joined the guard. Man, I want to say it was like 2002 or 2000. I guess 2002, and
Post 9/11.
he, yes, and he was over in Iraq for the initial push, that
Mm-hmm.
'03 push into Baghdad, and so of course I didn't graduate till '06. So when he came back, I was like, I guess I was at a weird point where like I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew we didn't have the finances to go to college. Like that was not
Mm-hmm.
financially in our future. And pretty much, my mom said, "Listen, I know you want to go to school. You better figure out how you're gonna pay for it." So it was kind of threw me towards the guard. So I
Mm-hmm.
graduated in May of 2006, and in June I enlisted. In July I shipped to basic training. But basically, the finances for college, and I didn't want my brother to go overseas by himself anymore. Which
Mm-hmm.
obviously he wasn't by himself, but
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go with him. And that came to fruition. We ended up in '07, '08. We got sent to Iraq together, so that was nice. But then he got out of the Army and let me go back to 2 more deployments by myself.
Oh,
So
that was nice
he
of him.
wasn't as loving as I was. Yeah, very very early. I did not like do the split up. I've got a nephew that's doing the split up right now, so he went to basic his was it junior year that summer, and then he'll go to AIT, and I don't
After
even
he
know if it's
graduates, yeah.
guard or active duty. I'm not really sure which one.
Okay, very cool. So it was you joined before you went off to college, so you could get the college benefits. And how did that go? Did you finish college before your deployments were done, or was it you finished? It was kind of in tandem with like you'd go
No,
away.
the price tag of letting the government pay for your college, the military, I guess, is that your college can quickly get extended, as
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I graduated high school in '06. I graduated with my bachelor's in science in 2016, so
Okay.
a full 10 years. Um, 2 deployments in there. I did take some time away. I went and played in the oil field for a little while.
Okay.
Just my family's a pretty big oil field family, and watching them be very successful and financially set
Hmm.
up for life,
Yep.
and I'm like, here I am trying to get this. I went law and then biology. I'm trying to get these weird degrees that
Hmm.
you still have to start at the bottom of a ladder. Like I might as
Yep.
well just go to the oil field. So I tried that for a while, but um, there's a thing about getting deployed, and I don't know how to say this without being ugly, but especially in transportation infantry, we all
Hmm.
know that like that's the lowest 2 ASVABs, right?
Hmm.
And so you get stuck around people who are, they don't challenge you intellectually. The
Hmm.
IQs are obviously very different. And so when I would come home from a deployment, I was like, I have to submerge myself in intelligent people. And so like every
Yep.
time I came home, I was like, that's what I needed to go back to
Yep.
school.
Yep.
You get tired of like the inability to problem solve or just think for themselves. That you want to get back around smart people. So
Absolutely.
I did go to after Iraq. I came back and went to East Central University for 2 semesters. Walked on football. Was not a good player at
Hmm.
all. Like I'm not a football player. Um, but obviously we came back and like drinking was an issue. So
Mm.
every freshman has that,
Yeah.
like that. Now I'm going to drink my way through college. But when you come back and you're 21,
Hmm.
you've deployed, you've seen the world a little bit, and then it's like, oh, now I can not only drink, but I can go get it on my own, and
Hmm.
so that was issues. But once I got to OU, it was like it was wonderful there.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, all that stuff went away, but yeah, so I came back from Afghanistan. I think I went over there in 2011 and 12, if I'm not mistaken. And when I got back, I just went to OU, and I was like, all right, I got to go to real school where you're
Hmm.
just a face in the crowd.
Yep.
East Central was nice, but it was almost too small. Like it felt like high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh, that's kind of the way it was at TU. Like, I mean, TU is like 3,000 undergrad, if that, and you're just like, we all know each other's business. The last five guys your girlfriend dated. You're just like, this sucks. It's like, I don't want to know everybody's business, but I mean, it's just the way it is
No, I
in
can
the
remember
small
walking into
communities.
my Bio 1 class at OU, and I was probably one of like 300, maybe more people in that class. Like, this is how it should be. Like, I don't I don't need that one-on-one personal connection with them. I just need you to teach me so I can go home and study for the test and go on with lives.
Yep.
I
Yep.
fit in perfect there. It's not for everyone, but that's how I had liked it.
Okay. See, him and Ivy kind of have a similar story. Like Ivy was out there doing the oil work and stuff, and then
Hmm.
it's just like I chose the army.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So, what was the MOS was infantry though, right? So,
No, no. So that's where I trick all you clowns, right? So all you kids that know me from OCS, I say kids, y'all are obviously grown people, but you guys and gals that know me from OCS, I have zero infantry training whatsoever, except basic training in 2006. I've been a truck driver literally the entire time,
okay.
which and the reasoning was I wanted to go with my brother, and he was a maintenance guy. He
Hmm.
he loves and still to this day loves working on engines, diesel engines, gas. He doesn't care. He's a mechanic. Like so, the only way I could be with him is if I'm not mechanically inclined, and I
Hmm.
don't really enjoy that stuff. But the only way I could get in by him, with him was to be a truck driver.
Yeah. So
So
he fixes them, you drive them.
I think my GT score is like a 126 or something, and the
Hmm.
recruiter was just squirming in his seat, and I was like, "No, I'll go be a truck driver." And he was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" But
Yeah.
it was what I wanted to do. My reasoning was not at the time, and I would definitely do it different now. But
Hmm.
it was not to go get an education on a job that I could do in the future. Right? It was
Yeah.
just I want to be with my brother. So that's what
Yeah.
it took.
Yeah. That's not a bad reasoning too.
And
Like.
literally, I've had one. I'm at my 19th year this summer. So I'm 18 and a half right now, and I've had one MOS. I'm reclassing next month to finally get my E7, uh,
Okay.
and so I will be a cook of all things.
Oh man,
Got to go where the rank is, you know.
that I knew all those kids that like I was surprised when I went to basic training. A lot of kids from Oklahoma National Guard were all becoming cooks, and they're like, dude, the bonuses were so good for being a cook. I was like,
Yeah,
dang man,
they're
that's
still
awesome.
so
Good for you.
short-handed. I know the whole state is, and it doesn't matter the MOS,
Hmm.
right? Recruiting is down across the board right now, but
Hmm.
yeah, being in a platoon sergeant for a platoon that is cooks and supply, I can tell you there's not enough cooks right now.
Yeah, for
we
sure.
we are lacking.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess give us a before we jump on into like well, we're all over the place already now, but how was basic training for you back in the day? How was that experience like? Because I know it's very different now, but I
Yeah.
mean, right after
So to kind of date myself and give you a timeline, um, I when I went to basic training in that summer of '06, went to Fort Knox, which was male only, and if I'm not mistaken, and it's been almost 20 years, but I'm pretty sure we were the second class to get the digital OCP. So they had only been handing them out for 2 classes. So I've never shined a boot in my life,
hmm.
right? Um, so that's kind of where the era I came into. But besides the uniform and not shining boots, everything else was pretty tight ship. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like we didn't have cell phones. In fact, we had a guy we called Razor because Razor flip phones were the big thing
Hmm.
back then, and he snuck one in and like kept it for man like 4 or 5 weeks, and he finally got caught because he left his charger in the wall one night or one morning. But um, So we didn't get those. We still had to go to the payphone and make all of our phone calls. So writing letters was big. And I know now, like my nephew was at basic, and like I could text him at basic training, right? And I don't know if it seems like a lot of times it was pretty instantaneous feedback. Like he was getting back to me, and I'm like, "What are y'all? What is going on?"
Yeah. Well, whenever Chad was there, you only had you guys were in trouble all the time. You got phone privileges taken away.
You got phone privileges every Sunday.
Okay.
Every Sunday, but you could get it taken away. And we had a really bad, at least my company at Fort Jackson was really bad. We would lose our phone privileges all the time. And I'd be like, I had a talking to the platoon, I mean, through the company. I was like, guys, you are getting these dudes who have families, like, they can't talk to their kids. This is like horrible.
Yeah.
And like, I get that some of y'all don't care, but I mean, just like, oh man, it was bad.
But,
Yeah.
and it was the same. But we didn't. I went to the same place he did. So I mean, drill sergeants like it was like going to high school football. Like you had an older brother there. Like I get off the bus and it's like, oh crap, like look, there's Watson, grab him. I was like, start pushing. So it was that was interesting. That was a unique experience. But same though, we got our phones every Sunday, and like we didn't ever lose our phone privileges there. So that was nice. But at the same time, I was like, this feels weird. But what was interesting was, they had the payphone booths there, but they didn't have the payphones in them anymore. And I was livid because, I mean, it dates you, because I was one of the old guys there, but I'm walking by and like some kid goes, "What's that?"
Yeah.
I just go, "That's a payphone booth stand." They go, "What's a payphone?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now, kid?"
It's old technology, man. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the timeline I was in, and so to experience that and to see what people have nowadays, it's obviously very different. I know why military retirement's 20 years now, because you have to get out and let other people kind of pick up the gauntlet and run with it, because things are going to pass us by, right?
Yep.
Before we hit record here, you asked for a funny story, and I can tell you. So like I said, I was at Fort Knox. We were on one of our sticks lanes. I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever we stayed in the field. And I had a moment where we were crawling through the woods, and I look up, and there's this spider, and I've never seen a spider wearing armor. But this spider had like spikes out of its back. It was black and white, and it had these giant spikes sticking out of its back. And it was probably, maybe the size of a $50 or something, maybe a quarter. But I was already sleep deprived, and I look up and I'm like, when did spiders get armor? Like it has weapons on his back. What is this? That was one of my funny, like I still remember that stories. Everything else was just kind of, we had the three hills. What is it? Heartbreak, agony, and misery, I think, at Fort Knox. I don't know if you've ever walked those hills, but they're not fun. That's like you can literally touch the ground in front of you as you're walking up it. That's probably where all of our lower back issues came from. Everybody who went to Knox is those hills right there.
We didn't have them that bad. We had what we called Heartbreak Ridge, but that was like the walk up to where our basic barracks was. It was so right down this giant hill was where Vic Tower was, and so every time we went on one of our ruck marches or whatever, we'd walk past every single event we did. But on the way back, you'd have to walk all the way back up this giant hill. It was concrete road, thank God, but still, it's just like, if you can just make it up this hill, the barracks are right up there, and we can just unload and just not have to worry about it for the rest of the day. So we did have our version of Heartbreak Ridge for sure.
Yep, that was basic was one thing. AIT completely different. So I ended up going to Leonardwood because I was 88 Mike. And that's where women got inserted into the military for me, right? So that was a co-ed training site. And man, were there problems there, right? Like they show you on day one, they walk you over to the Hall of Shame, and it's just all the Article 15s from, men and women doing what men and women do when you put them for whatever reason. Like, I don't know how you can't just go, I think it was 6 weeks or something, 8, 9 weeks, whatever. Like, I'll just learn how to drive a truck for 9 weeks and not touch your battle buddy, but...
I mean, it is the same at basic training, though, too. Like, we had, but it also changed the dynamic. Guys, we can say stuff to each other and make jokes and crack jokes. And I remember, and we come from a similar generation where, like, we locker room talk is locker room talk. So I would make the same jokes I made in high school, and then there'd be these 18, to 20-something-year-old girls there, and be like, if you say it again, I'm going to make sure you get in trouble. And I was just like, oh my God. It's like, I'm trying to relate to these young men who are like 10 years younger than me by like giving them an insight of what my childhood was like. But it's like, don't say that, So it changed the dynamic. I'm not saying they can't do the job, but, it just makes it so much harder to relate to people.
There's all kinds of dynamics there at work, right? Like we don't, and just, people are weird around the other gender, regardless. I think we see it on deployments, which was, it was actually really good for me to see that young because, I mean, I was home 9 months when we got orders for Iraq, and then we got over there and it was like the same stuff, right? Like,
Yep.
it helps you to realize, like, keep your hands to yourself, stay out of those drama circles.
Yeah.
If you're, I was in a relationship every time I went overseas, so I never had that issue. I never had to deal with the platoon relations, right? Like,
Yeah.
luckily. But there's some guys that get super caught up.
Yeah.
And it's natural. Right?
It is. It's a natural part, and especially with guys who, it's like there's not a lot of options available to, like, because it's, and the girls are in the military too. It's like, it's what do you call it, Chad? It's like an army, an army 2.
So regular life 2 is an army 10.
Is an army 10.
Right. Uniform is good for them.
So you become the hottest girl at school real quick in the army.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you become hotter than the hottest girl in the company or the battalion, effectively. But it's scary because, I mean, even then, it's like when you're hanging out with guys in the barracks. Now, even at basic training, you're like, I know what you just got done doing in the shower. You should be ashamed of yourself, man. Like, we all use that. Like, come on, bro, stop. Like, it's literally like what basic training was. What, 3 months, maybe 2.5 months? I can't remember what it was at Fort Jackson. It was like 11 weeks, I think.
It was 10. It was 10.
10, okay.
Weeks.
So, I mean, it wasn't like unbearable. Like, oh, what am I going to do? It's like, dude, it's 2 months, and you should be tired most of the time, too. So,
Exhausted.
Just do what you're supposed to do. Anyway, but so you you're a truck driver for a really good long time. You went on multiple deployments. Was there a lot of combat on those deployments? Did you ever have to get out of the truck and?
No, I did not. I've been very, very, very blessed in the fact that I was never blown up by an IED. Although we had vehicles that were. I was lucky enough to be someone whatnot. Never had to fight. Never discharged around in combat. Like, absolutely blessed because there's enough things out there weighing on our souls that's not something I needed, right?
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of guys in my units were not that lucky. My brother being one. A lot of my best friends have been through some stuff I don't want to see, to be honest. Like, so yeah, it was a relatively easy set of deployments, more chaos and internal chaos than anything. So
Absolutely,
I got lucky there.
We're all lucky if the hardest thing we do is being away from our family for any extended period of time. If that's what it is, and that's what a lot of deployments are for a lot of folks. I think a lot of people get I think the reason numbers are down is like, I'm gonna be the person that's deployed. I'm gonna be the guy on the front line. It's like, only 10 to 20% of the Army is infantry. It's like everything else is support. So there's plenty of jobs in the military that do not require stand up combat. I mean, is there always the risk? Absolutely, but
we went during a time because that, like, I mean, if you think about it, from 03 to. And I guess even right now, you just hear, but IEDs were like the thing, right? So there was a time when, there was the average lifespan of a truck driver overseas is a week or something, right? Like, it was bad. I mean, for whatever reason, big man upstairs blessed me and said, that ain't your path. So
absolutely.
We were there when it was all nasty, but we got lucky enough to not have to deal with it. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, so you were a truck driver. So how long would you say you were doing that MOS before you decided to pull the trigger and go the officer route, attempt OCS?
So I went to OCS primarily out of anger towards the Army, actually. So I'm sure you have all heard it, and anyone that's military listening right now has probably heard it, like, oh, we don't have the funding to send you to school. So I went from an E1, so I enlisted as an E-Fuzzy, and I got to E6 in 6 years, which was the fastest you could possibly do it. I got E5 in 4 years. I did my 2 years there, and I got my E6. I was on, like, the fast track. Right? I mean, there was lots of people that I grew up with that were still 2 ranks below me when I picked up my 6s. And then it just fell off a cliff, and it was this constant, like, well, we don't have the money to send you to ALC. We don't have the money. There's no slots. And so we finally, when we went to Afghanistan, I think it was Afghanistan, Kuwait. We went to Kuwait in 2017. And they basically told us a year before that deployment, they refused to send us to schools. The state had money, but they were like, nope, when you get overseas, they're going to send you back for your month of ALC. So you'll get there, you'll check in, you'll start doing your job. the active duty will pay for you to come home and go to ALC, and that way everyone in the company will get it. So they blocked off all the schools for us, and they gave it to people that weren't deploying.
Mm-hmm.
So we get overseas, a new battalion comes in and says, absolutely not. Y'all are National Guard. You can go home and go to school on your own time. We're not going to send you home from a deployment to go to ALC. So I got shut out of schools for, it may even been 18 months, for a long time before the deployment because we were supposed to get it then. And we get deployed and they say no. And so it's just this, and then we come home and they're like, oh, we don't have money again. So it just kind of got to be like, you could see the pattern, right? Like it's kind of a constant pain in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
They finally got us slotted for schools, and there was like one of us a month for 6 months, I think. And my date was something like 3 days before my first child was supposed to be born, was my report date. So my son was supposed to be born May 21st, and I was supposed to leave like May 18th to go to school. And so I went to the leadership, and I was like, this is not good. And they'd already let some other people swap dates. And I was like, hey, me and someone else has agreed to swap dates. It'll get me gone and back home within, well in time. Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to allow that anymore. So I was like, all right, I'm fed up. So I just talked with the commander. He was a super good dude, had become a friend of mine. And I just told him, like, look, I'm tired of the BS. It kind of got to the point where, like, I want to get out of the Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically was like, man, you need to consider OCS because what you bring to the table and the way you think and problem solve, he's like, we really need more officers. Have you considered OCS? I was like, well, no, I haven't. And that was in 2017. Like we'd gotten back from deployment. And by that April or whatever of 18, I was at OCS.
Okay.
And so I kind of went there as a way to prevent myself from having to get out of the Guard.
Gotcha. Okay.
Got into that I was supposed to go accelerated, and then I couldn't get a Chapter 2 physical. So I screwed up. I was going to be a pilot. So I went down to the aviation, and they say don't ever give the military anything for free. Like, don't give them any information for free because they'll use it against you every time. So I'm sitting to a Chapter 2 physical, and I've passed everything with flying colors. The last thing I have is, like, see the doc. I'm with the provider, and he's going through all the, do you have this, do you have that? And he was like, do you have any back pain? And I was like, well, yeah, a little bit. He was like, all right, that's the end of your physical. I have to have x-rays from today, and I got to have x-rays from 12 months from now showing you haven't showed improvement in whatever is that your ailment causing back pain. And so I reported to OCS anyways. That was like, I was the last month. I came in the month before we shipped, so I was in pre-OCS for like 1 day, actually.
Yeah.
Because Saturday I went to my physical. Sunday I showed up for pre-OCS. And they were like, well, you can't go accelerated if you don't have Chapter 2. So I ended up going traditional, which was the best thing ever. If you're considering OCS, traditional OCS, regardless of who's in charge of it or what that op tempo looks like, because I know a lot of them are going like 8 months now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a mistake. There's huge benefit to having to do something for a year of your life, planning, working together as a group. It's not about getting through the school faster. It's about learning how to be a National Guard officer before you're a National Guard officer. But I got put in traditional program, class 6-4, I think. Yeah, class 6-4 here in Oklahoma. And went to phase 1 in South Dakota. Now that year was weird because we had broken up with the state of Washington for, I guess, 12 months or whatever, because it was something about commanders were bickering. I don't know. So we went to South Dakota. I'm sorry, with Kansas.
Yeah.
Not with Washington, with Kansas, state of Kansas. So we didn't go to Kansas for phase 1. We went to South Dakota, all the traditional and the accelerated, which now just accelerated goes there.
Brutal.
Yeah, and so I got to be a part of that. South Dakota, the land nav course is amazing. Everything else was terrible. Did y'all do land nav there? Did you get to go to South Dakota?
No, we went to.
We were Washington. We were Kansas.
We were Kansas. We went to Salina.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the land nav course in South Dakota pays for the rest of it by itself because it's just huge mountains and like the map is exactly what if you look out and see a group of trees with a hill, you look down, that's what you're going to see on your map. So it's so easy compared to Kansas, which is like we drew some scratches on the paper. Go find these points, right?
Yeah. That was not an easy land nav course.
It's the hardest one I've
yeah.
ever done.
Yeah, it's
I've
tough.
done it. I've done that one now a couple times, and it is by far the hardest course I've ever seen.
It also doesn't help the fact that it's literally there's some within like 50 meters of each other. It's like, is this the right one?
Yeah.
And then you go back and you have to redo your pace count. You're like,
If you're
man,
off
I'm
at
an
all.
idiot.
Yeah, it's terrible. Anyway, so we came home from that, got into phase 2. Wonderful time. We had just trying to remember the commander's name now, and I'm gonna forget it. Dang. Sorry, sir. Whoever you are. Anyway, we came home, had a new OCS commander, and he was doing things a little bit different than previous groups. And so that was fun because we were kind of we were the guinea pigs.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was, it felt different. It felt neat. Everything we were doing I felt like cutting edge, like we're problem solving. How did that work? How does this work? We made improvements on the fly, which was really, really neat to see. Versus some schoolhouses, as y'all know, you go to the military schoolhouse and it's like whatever we do is what we do, and those AARs never really go anywhere. It seems like. So we got most of the way through phase 2, and the commander brought me in and was like, "All right, man, listen up. You need to tell me where you want to transfer to." And I was like, well, "I don't want to transfer. I want to be here." He's like, "Well, you can't. If you ain't got chapter 2 by now, you're probably not gonna get one. So you need to figure out where you're going to go." So basically they were kicking me out of OCS for because I couldn't pass a physical because this doctor said, "Do you have any back pain?" And I said, "Yes." Lie to the government. That's all I'm saying. And then I coerced him into letting me stay because we were, I don't know, 3 or 4 months out. I was like, "Look, it's 3 or 4 drills. Just let me stay here and finish out phase 2 with my, comrades." And so we did that, and then so we get done with phase 2. He's like, "All right, so now where do you want to go?" And I was like, "Well, listen, I still need an AT. I'm this close. What if I just get to finish, right?" So he's like, "Okay, fine. You can finish OCS." So I luckily got to go to phase 3, passed with flying colors up there. Oklahomans rocked that place. It was wonderful up in the state of Washington. And came home and went through the whole ceremony and just didn't get to pin. And it was all because I still can't get a chapter 2 because my packet went to National Guard Bureau, and so they basically, from what I've been told, if I ever tried to get another chapter 2, it would, throw up a red flag. We'll see. I don't know.
Interesting.
One of these days I may still try to direct commission, because it's
Yeah.
one, I have my coin from OCS. I've completed the commissioning school, but 2, they did direct commissions again. So
Yeah. Well, heck, but so chapter 2. So it's just the Army red paper. I mean, how many times? Like, I don't know if you've ever seen The Fat Electrician, but I'm a huge fan of his YouTube channel. But basically, some of the best fighters in the world, or some of the most decorated soldiers in the world, if they hadn't lied on their sight and vision tests, we would have not had some great ones like the War Daddy, like the tanker guy. Who else? Ching Li, the best admiral that was ever. He was the only admiral that sunk a Japanese ship with another ship in basically a sniping contest with. He rewrote the book on how to conduct naval warfare from long distances. And who else? There's a couple other ones, but anyway, so you finished OCS, you didn't get to pin. So how did you end up making the transition to becoming a black hat from there? Was it
So there was just a little bit of a need. So OCS is a broadening assignment to be on staff there. So if you're a guardsman and you don't know what a broadening assignment is, it's essentially like you signed up to do an MOS. Let's just say you're infantry, but you've been at it for 10 years and you're like, I just need a break. And it doesn't mean you want out of the guard. You just need to get out of that structure, that situation, whatever. So we have these things called broadening assignments, and there's a bunch of them. I've got friends that are on the shooting training teams in Oklahoma City. I've got friends that are part of the state safety team. And so, there's different ways to get out of your unit and go do something else while still completing your contract for the Guard. And so OCS is one of those, but it's often people's last stop. So a lot of people go there to retire. And that's kind of what helped me is that was somebody in the element. They were on their way out. Captain Steve Hudgens had just shown up. I think he beat me. We might have even, I don't remember exactly when he showed up, but he wasn't, he hadn't gone to his schools yet. Sergeant Monemeyer had just showed up. She actually joined us at phase 3. They do all of your TAC qualifications 2 weeks before phase 3 or a month before phase 3. And so She had come up and joined us at that time. So there were some new faces showing up, and they still needed bodies. And it basically was a conversation with the commander, like, I don't really want to go back to the truck drivers. We kind of talked about that ability to problem solve. And honestly, there was a weight issue at the time, and I don't know what the current status is, but with these low numbers, the guard's not kicking people out. And so we're dealing with overweight soldiers and people just not staying to standard. And I just lived for 18 months in a thing where, like, everything was to the standard. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that, like, everyone doing the right thing, doing what's good for you and your buddy, and taking care of each other and just living the standards. And so I didn't really want to go back. So I just asked if I could kind of stay on, and they were like, well, yeah, I guess we do need, another body. And I'd gotten lucky. I think it was the 12 months before that, or maybe 6 months before that, they had lowered the requirement to be a black hat down to E6. So it was you had to be an E7, but they dropped it down to be an E6, which I was, and so it just kind of was a match made in heaven.
Good deal. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so Captain Hudgens and I went up and got all of our qualifications taken care of that summer, and so I went the summer of 19. Yeah, summer of 2019, I was a candidate at Phase 3 in Washington, and summer of 2020, I was a cadre at Phase 3 in Washington. So,
very cool.
Which led to some great conversations with the leadership up there. They actually offered us a job, offered to move my wife and I up there because they'd never seen someone do both parts so close together. And you're talking about, like, the ability to problem solve and just troubleshoot things. Like, look, this is what I was thinking here last year, and this year I can see why we had those weird doubts. Or, not that it was not a bad program. One of the best schools I've ever been to, in fact. It was wonderful. But, I mean, that's why we AAR, right? There's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, that was a super neat situation to be in, to transition from cadre to from candidate to cadre in the same schoolhouse, like in sequential years or whatever.
Yeah, that's like a unicorn experience for you. I mean, I couldn't imagine being like it'd be like if you and me just said, "Hey, we're coming back up to basically teach." Like it's like, who the heck are you? It's like I just did this like 2 days ago.
Yeah. So it was able, it put me in a position to train, even those 2 weeks that I had those guys. I met some now, obviously officers that I still am in contact with today. Every time I'm in Washington, there's a lieutenant that, we got to go out and catch dinner, or at least run into each other on the training site, because I was at that place where I understood what they were going through. I understood what made it difficult, what I didn't understand about testing, what I didn't understand about the lanes, or I could explain all that to them, right? It was almost probably a cheat code for them, because you have a regular cadre. They don't teach you how to do that job. They give you a paper and say they got to fit the paper, and everything else is on you. So they don't generally train you. No, I'm not saying there aren't good ones. Please don't take this wrong. There's some of them that are fantastic, but a lot of them are just flying by the seat of their pants. And so when you get to testing date, they're like, well, I don't know what. I mean, when you're taking your practice lanes, they're doing their first practice lanes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so that wasn't me. So I was teaching them from day one, like, here's what you need to focus on. Here's where we're going to lay the weight on certain, check the boxes. These are okay to miss. These do not miss. And so we kind of walked through, and I could train them exactly what I'd just been through to get a go. And it showed. I think we had the officer of the cycle, the company, whatever. We had like 4 of those in a row. So we had, from the guy who got the sword down, we took the whole company, platoon, squad, everything was my squad, which was neat for me, but really just showed that they showed up ready to train.
Absolutely.
And that unicorn situation worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
There might be something to it, even, like, start bringing people back and letting them be a cadre.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, even back in World War II, I swear, like, that. Who was that kid? The youngest Medal of Honor winner.
I can't remember.
The guys, it ended up like his wife tried to murder him later on in his life or whatever. But that's what he did. Like, he graduated and was like, oh no, never mind. I'm thinking of the guy that held Bear Stone and held back the SS for about 13 hours. That's prevented them, but. He was a machine gun squad teacher, and they just go, "You're just going to teach lanes and stuff." And he was like, "But I want to be on the front lines." He goes, "Well, you're really good at this." So it's like,
right.
They need to bring some of that back instead of just throwing people into. Yeah, but I feel like that's what it is. It's like what you're talking about. It's like people go there to retire kind of thing. It's like, I'll just do this because it'll be fun, And whether or not I understand what it is we're teaching, or maybe I do, but it's been a long time since I instructed. But it's like coaching, it's like that's why a lot of tier one athletes, they don't make good coaches because I don't know, I just do it, I just know how to do it versus someone who understands the game. It's like no, if you want to be good, you need to chop your feet this way and turn your hips this way, and it's like, oh, okay, now I get what you're talking about. Now it's all making sense, So you're right. I mean, your coaching comes in really well there, especially for that OCS environment. And but yeah, I think that how it went down in, because you could see the cadre that were just did not know kind of what was going on while you were out there. So, but yeah, a unique experience for you. In that you just jumped right in right after you got done being a part of the OCS program. So speaking of OCS and what it's like being on one side, so we're relating to you really well on this side that's like, hey, yeah, we all went to OCS and everything was done to the standard, and whether or not the standard made sense, you're just like just make sure you get it done. We got to get it done that way. What's it like being on the opposite side? Like, what is because to us, it just all seems like chaos. It's like, you guys figure, it's like you guys just throw us a bunch of, here are your 5 items, get this stuff taken care of, and if it doesn't look good, you're going to be punished accordingly for it. So what's it like being on the other side? Like, what's that chaos
the
look
thing
like?
that I don't say we can't tell you, but we can't make you understand as a cadre at OCS is that it is not like any other school. So in any other school, we're going to crawl, walk, run you, right? So I'm going to if I have to teach you how to shoot a machine gun, we're going to go a crawl phase. We're going to break it all down. I'm Barney style. We're going to teach you all the specifics. Then we're going to walk. So now I'm going to watch you do it in a controlled environment, and you're going to go out and do that. And now we're going to run, where it's like, all right, we're on the range, time to run, right? Whether that's mounted, dismounted, whatever. At OCS, there's no crawl, walk, run. I gave you the book. I gave you your original op order that tells you every single thing you're going to do for this entire class. The expectation is you read that, and now you know every single thing you're going to do this for entire class. I gave you the standards and the guidelines and how rooms ought to be set up, what reporting is like. It's right. You have your OC guide, you have op orders, you have whatever. There's no crawl phase. I don't walk you through the book. I don't walk you through the op order and say, does everyone understand that on these dates you're going to do this? No, that's not for me. This is a leadership school. You got to be able to take in way too much information that some shitty leader gave you, process it, and now spit it back out to your Joes in something they can understand and execute. That's OCS. Mm-hmm. From day one to the very last day, no matter what, that's OCS. Mm-hmm. And so it is a little bit weird school because you show up and you're getting corrected. If maybe your uniforms aren't right. Like every class, it was always like their flick wasn't dress right dress. Well, it tells you in your standards, in your OC guide, exactly where the tape goes. Excuse me. Exactly how wide that strip of tape is supposed to be, what color it's supposed to be, how you're supposed to write your name, initials, whatever on, right? Everything is detailed for you, but people show up and go, oh, I'm supposed to put some tape on here. So they do, and everyone does it by themselves, right? And I'm sure y'all went through that in your class as well. We were like, and I think I was a little nicer on y'all's class because I had just seen it like 5 classes in a row. Like, all right, I'm tired of smoking kids for this stupid thing. So I tried to do a little bit more of the crawl, walk, run by the time y'all's class came around. But, in the beginning, it was like, one of y'all is not like the other. Go outside and do 100 push-ups. You have 5 minutes to correct it. Get back in here, and we'll do another, inspection. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how it's supposed to be. We're turning the temperature up because leadership isn't easy. Making decisions isn't easy. You don't always have all the information. I think I operate on like a 70% of the information rule. Like, you give me 70% of what I need to know, we're going to make a decision one way or the other. I just want to make sure I'm going north and not south if I need to be going a certain direction, right?
Absolutely.
And so, that's kind of what it is just you're expected to read the standard, follow the standard from the beginning, regardless of what you don't understand. And when you don't, you have to have the gumption to reach out to someone above you and go, I have an RFI. I don't understand what this means. I'm here to communicate. But we all know at the schoolhouse, y'all showed up because I did. In 6-4, we did the same thing. We showed up expecting to have our hands held for a couple months.
Yep.
And then there to be like this breaking in period. And then, okay, now we'll take over and we'll take the reins. No, you're graded from month number 1. Like there's no crawl, walk, run. So that's the hardest part to get across to candidates. And it's the part that some cadre obviously can go overboard with. There has to be that mentorship, but it's not in the beginning. The mentorship usually starts around January timeline, where I'm like, okay, you've shown that you can read and follow and abide by these standards. Now let's show you, not say how to bend them, but how do we make that fit within the real world, right? We all know that real life happens in the gray. It's not black and white. In the Army, the government tries to be black and white, but it's just not. That's not how things work. That's why we make SOPs
Yep.
that then will take the place of a standard, right? I mean, even in room inspections, right? That's the first one in OCS. I was like, what if we just write it up different? And in my class, we did that and got away with it. The next class never figured that out. And then by my second or third class of being cadre, it's like, all right, listen, guys, just write an SOP. Like, you don't have to go by everything we gave you. Hey, look, we can't make that fit because that's built for an OCS locker room, where it's a full bay. We don't have that here. So since that is already out the window, we rewrote it like this. And then if you can take that in leadership and do it with everything. So if it's running a range, if it's loading a bus, if it's, your 30, 60, 90, 120s, whatever it is, we make it fit to real life. But that's what we're trying to do as a cadre at OCS. So looking from the candidate side where you're just getting told what to do and you're doing a lot of push-ups for no reason. And then when I flipped hats and I was like, okay, we have to be kind of terrorists because
Yep.
I don't say terrorist. That's probably a terrible word. We have to be a terror to you, which I guess, in the word. But because we got to apply that pressure because I can't shoot at you. I can't physically harm you. I've got to do something to make sure that you're going, if I don't make a decision, this is about to suck.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
And the way I described it in the phase 2 video, like I just said, it's the wake up call because you get through with phase 1, you're like, man, phase 1 sucks. So like you just sit there and it is a constant just punch in the face of just getting smoked, getting corrective training, going out and just doing the worst stuff, and then it chills out when you get to do the land nav part, and then you survive that and you finish whatever other corrective training they have you do, returning all your weapons, just like, oh my god, we made it. And you get to see Major Queton. He's like, good job, guys, you did it, and you're like, all right, we're going home. And then you start for phase 1 and you're sitting there and you're just waiting.
Phase 2.
You're just phase 2, so you're just standing in formation like, we were supposed to be here at this time, and all of a sudden, you just see, here comes the black hat. You're like, I don't recognize this person, I don't know this person. And you're just like, oh well, it's gonna be fine because we got through the hard part. And then like phase 2, it's like, nope, not at all. Welcome. Guess what, guys? And I said it's the wake up call because that's why I tell everyone I call phase 2 the wake up call because you think you got through the hard part, and again, it is technically true. You got through the hardest part of where that knocks out most candidates, but phase 2, it's welcome to it, and you're in charge, and the way you described it, it's just perfect. There is no crawl. It's just, we're not going to hold your hand. Here's what you're supposed to do. If you don't do it right, it's going to suck.
There's consequences, right? Phase 1, the only interaction before I went to phase 1, the only interaction I'd had with it was a really good NCO. He was one of my, I was his squad leader. He was my team leader. And he had talked about OCS and how it was just a smoke fest. He said it was stupid. I quit after 5 days. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And that's kind of the mentality I went into it with when I got there. And I realized pretty quick, it's just a war of attrition. But it is that, when you want a leader, you can't have someone that quits in 5 days or in 3 days or in 1 day. I mean, I've seen somebody stand up in the very first
smoke session,
and they're done, right? You can't, that's mentally weak or physically weak. And that's not what we want leaders to be. We all have different types, but there is a standard, and you have to have leaders a certain deal, a standard. So that's what phase 1 is.
Yep.
100%. It is anyone who can't just go do hard stuff for 14 days should not be an officer in the military. And I think most people would agree. Probably not those people who stood up and quit, but the rest of us, we all agree. And then phase 2 starts that way to remind you that this is a very standardized house. You will not live here if you do not play by the rules. But then we start the mental challenge, right? So now it's all the products that you have to have prepared every month, and you find people that are lazy. I've seen people get kicked out for lying. I've seen people get kicked out for just not doing their job, just because they were lazy. They thought that it was regular National Guard, where I don't do Army stuff until you start paying me. And we all know it's not. It's just not leadership in the Guard. You talked about your leadership text still blowing up, right? I've spent, let's see, we had drill 10, 11, 12 of this month of January. And since then, I've probably spent 3.5 full days just dealing with Army stuff. Now I'm a newer platoon sergeant. I'm still trying to get my administrative side in check because once again, guys, there's no one that teaches you that.
Mm-hmm.
No one takes you and says, "Hey, here's the perfect administrative document to run your platoon." That's not real. It doesn't happen. That's why we teach you in OCS, like, make stuff up. Figure out what you need to make life easier. Create that document, that asset, whatever it is, utilize it, and then pass it on to people, because that's not in the real world. So I'm still dealing with that right now, right? Trying to get a platoon in shape, trying to get the administrative side of the house in shape. So you don't just work as a leader when you put the uniform on and go show up for a weekend. It's not feasible.
No, yeah, absolutely not. It's definitely outside. You know, I mean, I'm still working and submitting draws and all kinds of stuff. I'm working on my 30, 90-day plan. You know, the leader just say, hey, you need to have this stuff submitted. And then the admin sergeant be like, you didn't do this right. And I was like, perfect.
Right.
It's like, thanks.
It's good to have those QAQCs, right? We need
Yeah.
people that check on us and make sure we're doing things right, because although there's one standard, there's a million standards.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so we love those guys.
Absolutely, yeah. And it is, you know, like OCS did a great job, specifically phase 2 for that stuff. I mean, we had to create our own draws. You know, we had to go in and submit memos and SOPs. You know, it's like that's what it is. Like, that's the job that you do outside. It's the not sexy stuff. You know, it's like, yeah, everyone looks at the Army. You know, you just see that 10%. Oh, they carry guns and they get to do. It's like, if only it were just that easy.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it is it's two different worlds. We talked earlier about traditional versus accelerated, and that is where you guys will forever be more prepared than any accelerated officer. So, accelerated program is basically phase 1 for 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real mentoring. Not always. There's going to be the outliers. Some people got up and had a really good tack and they mentored as they went. But for the most part, people I've talked with it's like, nope, we were phase 1 from day 1 to the last day.
Yep.
And then they came home, and now they got thrown in front of a platoon. No one ever taught them how to write a memo truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
No one taught them about 30, 60, 90, 120s. No one told them how to, write a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we talked to guys that all they ever did was pen and paper that stuff. Like, they're writing memos on the next to last day to request to graduate on a memorandum they wrote by hand. Well, you don't learn how to format it in Microsoft Word or whatever your document, whatever you're going to use. That's just stuff you don't learn at Accelerate. So traditional is by far the way to go. Much more now, so I guess that it's an 8-month program for just about everyone. Because now, obviously, you're giving less time before you become a leader, which that's what everybody wants. I want the rank fast, I can get paid fast. But if you show up and you can't do the job, you're just as shitty as the LT that we're all laughing at before you went to OCS.
You're the private of the officers. Congratulations. Like, what am I supposed to do with this person? But and again, we interviewed kids who went to accelerated, you know, all the way up at South Dakota, and like when we were telling her the things that we did, we were like, yeah, this is what we had to do, and she was like, what? You know, like yeah, we had to submit memos. Like, if we didn't have the memo, like if we wanted coffee, we had to submit a memo. And like she goes, well, we had people who knew how to do memos, but you know, they hand jammed it on a piece of paper,
right?
You know, and you're just like, wow. And then like we also had to plan our drills out. Like, we'd have to communicate with each other as a class, and you know, again, the way you described it, exactly what she said. She goes, we just lived at the mercy of the cadre. We went to bed at the time they told us to go to bed, and if we wanted to submit a memo, we'd have to submit it on a piece of paper, and they just say no, it's not formatted right, whatever. It's like, but again, it's just a piece of paper. So You're just like, both are chaotic, both are crazy. But again, I think you're correct, is in the fact that the learning how to do the memos and the draws and stuff like that put us loads ahead of these other kids, unless somebody hands them a document that shows them this is a draw.
But y'all are planning events, right? Y'all didn't do because we didn't have it anymore. When we went through, we had to do the Veterans Center event, which was, everyone knows where the Veterans Center is, down in Norman Moore area, right? And it's the hospital. And so we had to go down there and interview people for like 4 months. We would take, we'd had to ask who wants to be interviewed. We would take this old veteran and interview them and learn their military history, and then put on a presentation for their family at this big, big event. It usually happened about January. That was kind of our moment that's our aha moment. Like, oh, we can operate as a team. You come out feeling really good. But you had to plan that. You got to request those resources. You got to plan with families and make sure timelines fit. And how are we going to transport us? How are we going to transport them? Think about it. If you're at one of those accelerated schools, you don't worry about how you're getting. You just get on the bus, right? You guys have now had to request all these assets, and request a training area. You got to go look at that training area. I'm going to tell a story about DC. So this weekend I went to DC for the inauguration. Obviously, it all moved inside, so I didn't get to go in anywhere. So we ended up watching on TV like everyone else. But we were in DC. We got to go do some cool stuff. But we went to a ball, one of the inaugural balls, and it was the worst event I've ever been to in my life. It was terrible. Our friends and us, we bought tickets to be at this VIP event, and there was a free event, and someone forgot to put the door checker out. There was just no one there to do that. So all the free people went into the VIP people, and like we had food provided, they didn't. We had tables set at, they didn't. Well, now all that's just taken. We ended up just leaving, going to a steakhouse, and then going back, and we had great, very, very awesome conversation with the friends that we went with instead. But, we were there to network and meet new people and all that. But my very first thought was, these people have obviously never been to something like OCS because they did a terrible job at planning this event from top to bottom. It was just a broken event. We know how to do that now because you've had to plan these training exercises. You know that, like, hopefully they at least pretended while you were there. They're like, if you don't order water, request water for your 12-mile ruck march, you're going to be very thirsty. You know what I mean? Or imagine being able to make it because you don't have water to refill your canteens, or whatever. So there's just certain things you have to do as a leader, and I think that event planning is a big part of it that you guys have gotten to, and I did as well, got from OCS.
Yeah, I mean, planning the dine-in was a perfect example of that right there. I mean, that was a lofty goal. It's like, you guys, you have to, and then as you do it, like, we need transport so we can go over there and set up, and then we find out the rules that the cadre have that they don't tell us that they have. They go, oh yeah, one of us has to be with you at all times. And you're like, oh. he's like, I left something back at the thing, so all of you have to pile back in this van, and we can't set up anymore because you have to come with me, so I have to get this item or whatever I need, and then we all come back together, and you're just like, crap, this sucks. Like, you have so many, rules put down on you, and you have to be with the cadre member at all time because, again, they're responsible for you if something were to happen. So it's just wild, that people don't seem to think about those type of things, but we have to because of the stipulations that the Army puts on us.
Yeah.
So,
and you'll be a lot better leaders now because of that. I just think that traditional route is the route especially if you're a National Guardsman. Because you don't have time to get trained. You're going to be a lieutenant 24 times before they promote you and move you to XO. You know what I mean?
Unless you're already XO like me.
Right, but you're gonna be a platoon leader approximately 24 times. I'm gonna show up and see my guys. I'm gonna say hi 24 times, and then I'm gonna move on to something else. You can't get anything done. There's no time to train you. So if you showed up from Accelerated and you have no idea what you're doing, you've only got 24 times, and now you're expected to go on and be something bigger.
And that's kind of the experience that I had showing up to my unit for the first time. Was I ran a range, and the two guys who were there were Accelerated, and they both went at the exact same time. And I looked at them because, like, I had never run a range before at this point. I was like, all right, guys, so what do we do? And they just kind of looked at me like, I don't know. We've only ever done this once. And I was like, great. So then I was basically running the range by myself.
But you knew how to look in a standard. You knew how to look in the book. There's always an easy book, right? Almost always. There's an SOP. So, yeah, but you know that stuff now, right? And you can think, hopefully they taught you, and I say hopefully they because I was there for half of y'all's class. So hopefully I gave you that skill while I was there to critically think and check all the boxes, right?
Well, absolutely. And then we had the gumption to just be looking around on, the internet for resources, and that's when we came across your Sergeant Chamberlain schoolhouse, OCS schoolhouse, and that was like, I mean, I can't tell you. When I went to phase 3, they were like, you can't bring any of your own materials with you, and then so me and Chad just went home and well, now that we're here, we can. So we just write out and hand jam our own things, and I can't tell you how many times we had to be RTOs for people because they'd see our handwriting or because I like the what do you call it, the shell, like you had your shell but you had marker and stuff, and you could smear so easily. So I was like, screw that, I'm just gonna write it inside my waterproof notebook, and then people would see my notebook. Dude, you're my RTO because I can read your handwriting. And I was like, crap, now I'm gonna be RTO for a lot of people now. So, and not because I was particularly good at being RTO, but because there's I like your handwriting, and if I miss something on my stupid shell, I know that you'll have it written down very well. And I was like, I guess. So
that YouTube was fun to make, and I need to. I keep promising myself I'll get back after it, but I'm trying to do some stuff with football, and I'm a consultant for football coaches. So
sure.
And it's just passing on the same knowledge. To be honest with y'all, it's just Army OCS land and football world, right? But I need to turn it into like an NCO's schoolhouse too, and just teach people how to be NCOs, because there's a lot of them that same thing. They go to a 2 week school and maybe 1 month if they're ALC. I think was 1 month, but it's just not very. It's not long. No one ever teaches you how to be a leader. It's just you're expected to know. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of it's just like being an officer. Where you show up, it's like, oh, you're in charge now. It's like, oh, cool. You just you'd be surprised how many people just have no idea what they're doing. They're just doing the best they can in their positions, and that's the way it is. I think with everything in life, it's like if you ask Jeff Bezos or even Elon Musk, like, how do you know what you're doing? You're doing well. It's like, I don't know. I'm just doing it. I'm more than likely what they tell you. It's like. OCS, I remember you saying this all the time. It's like, make a decision. It's like, doesn't matter if it's the wrong one, just make a decision. You can't just stand there with your hands like, oh, I don't know.
We had a classmate that locked up on an X one day. Just we were going through a training lane, and we got there, and it was a sticky situation. You got bad guys over here, bad guys over here, bad guys in front of you. What are you gonna do? And he literally stood up, was like, just kill me. I don't know. I was like, what? Like, but that's the inability to make a decision, right? It's just paralyzation due to that inability. And you're right. If someone will make a choice, make a decision, I can correct and make you make better decisions. I can't correct when you do nothing. Like that's I can't guide you and mentor you, make a better leader out of you if you do nothing.
Absolutely. But is there any other OCS land or advice or being attacked? Anything else you want to?
Yeah, number one. So if you are any kind of a leader at all, try to do that broadening assignment. Try to get to your local OCS, whether that's here in Oklahoma, whatever state you're in. It was my favorite job I've ever had in the military, by far. I've been a platoon leader before. I've been a platoon sergeant several times. I've led convoys overseas, in every country that we've been to. I've done all those things, and they're all fun. Rewarding in some ways, but that was by far the most rewarding, is just knowing you're directly taking the way you do things, the way you see the world, my extreme ownership, like I'm a big Jocko guy, taking those things and passing it on to the next generation of leaders. Because if you don't go do it, someone else will, and I don't know if they're more qualified than you, right? So by all means, get into developing the next group of leaders, and with that, quit hoarding all the good soldiers in the NCO ranks. We've got to. So since my entire time in the Guard, we either didn't have lieutenants, or we were mocking the ones we did have. Right? Like, you're just laughing at them because they're so bad at their job. They're terrible leaders. They're terrible at what they do. They can't pass PT. They're narcissists. They're this. They're that. Right? So it's like we have all these really bad leaders, and we laugh at them, but no one ever goes, "That's the guy that's leading me into combat." He's my boss. And instead of fixing him, I'm laughing at him. And maybe he's not fixable. And that's not, you don't always get that choice. But why am I holding on to this really good E5 or really good E6 when I could send them to OCS and let them go fix the problem by addition, right? We're going to add good soldiers to that side to kind of remedy this plague of bad leadership. It's just a very weird. Even in the National Guard, we don't know how to operate with PLs because they're so few and far between. Outside of infantry, I'm sure you guys fit your roles and they understand what your roles are. But everywhere else, the platoon sergeant's, he's platoon daddy. He's the leader, right? First sergeants talk to the commander. First sergeant tells platoon sergeants, here's what got to get done, and we make the plans and go operate, right? Like, execute. To where that's not right. It's supposed to be the lieutenant's side, right? It's supposed to be the officer side of the house doing that work, but we don't know how to use them because we have them. Once again, we either don't have them or they're so bad you can't rely on them. So we just do everything ourselves. But send good soldiers to OCS.
Yep.
Make them go through it because you're going to help their career. They're going to get paid more. Being a gold bar is just the beginning. Like, next thing, they're a company commander and they're solving a lot of people's problems because they can critically think and logically think. And then they're in a battalion and then a brigade. Like, like, solve the problem by addition. Give them those good soldiers.
Yeah, and I'll say this too from a perspective of an NCO who I was at. It was we made really good friends with Kansas because we did all the joint stuff with them.
Course.
And but one of my buddies named Macias was there, and he was like an E6 or an E7, and he was like, at phase 3, we were together. He goes, "Man, I had no idea what officers went through in order to become officers. He goes, like, I feel bad for all, for just the ribbings that we did on them back in the day at being an NCO, because this is brutal, man. Like, it's crazy. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty crazy, but it's always interesting hearing it from the NCO's perspective too, because it's just, they're used to being in, they understand what the Army's like, but it's such a, it's like you say, it's like OCS is such a shocking schoolhouse for people because it's just so brutal and different from any other school. And but I guess before we sign off here, do you have any general life advice or dad advice that you would give to the people watching to just give them something to say before we close out here?
No, I guess I'll just make mention of, there's two quotes that I really, really love, and my wife, if she's listening now, she'll laugh at me, but one is just the extreme ownership thing in life, and that is, if you haven't read Jocko's book, I'll tell you what it means, or what it says. It says that everything's your fault. That's what the whole book says. Mm-hmm. Everything is your fault, and even when it's not your fault, it's your fault. And the quicker that you will draw a line from the thing that went wrong to you, the quicker you'll start problem solving those things in the future. And so I live in that world. I teach everyone that I speak to about that. Like, everything is your fault. Fix it before it becomes anyone else's fault. And then I'm trying to develop this culture, but like in my platoon, at schools that I coach at, if you have that culture of ownership where we're all trying to solve problems instead of walking by trash on the ground and be like, the next guy will get it. Mm-hmm. All right, no, pick the trash up. It's your fault. It's your fault that it's there. Even if you didn't throw it down, as soon as you walk past, it's now your fault that trash is on the ground. So if you apply that to everything in life, I think we'll all be in a little bit better world. And then the other one is a quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And I think that is, there's time and place for both. But I think we all know that we want to go far in whatever we're doing. If it's your hobby, if it's your job, your business, if it is your military career, whatever, sure, you can be the superstar and you can show out and run away from everybody else. But pretty soon you're by yourself. Mm-hmm. And that'll put a stop to whatever it is you're trying to do, which may be what my career was, right? I was on that fast track ahead of all my peers. It may be exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. I went fast by myself. I didn't go far with everyone, right? So find a team, build your village, whatever that looks like. My friends and my wife and I, we all joke about like building a compound somewhere and just living in a group, because that's our life team, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we're doing everything together. It's business advice. It's, hey, can you watch the kids this weekend? Mm-hmm. It's celebrating each other's successes and being there when we hit our downfalls. And so build your village, build your tribe, and go conquer life that way, because it's gonna be a lot better.
I like it. I don't think I could end it any better way. So thanks for joining us today, Sergeant. We appreciate your time, and I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate the advice and the OCS tips that they can get from this. But that's about all we've got for you today. This is the Twins with the Grand Old Time Cast. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.
See you later, everybody.
You're right.